Well, this drawing is designed to show local authorities how they might go about encouraging water runoff from roadways into roadside verges. And what's been done here is the curb's been punctured by a little spillway, and any water that comes from the road into the swale area is dispersed by these rocks, and planting of sedges around the edge. Here it is on the right a few months later, and the sedges are obviously growing rather well. If we pan down just a little, the lower part of the screen here shows the design. There's some existing plants scattered through here, some fairly natural looking rocks have been placed, and you may just be able to see there's a serpentine appearance through here, and species have been, understory species have been placed as well. Up at the top of the screen there, if we zoom in there, you can see some of the species that have been used in the design. Eucalypts in this case planted directly into a granitic bed. So there's the design. If I right click and zoom extents, we've also added a legend on the right hand side with existing trees, existing shrubs, flat top rocks, understory planting and grasses and so on. What I wanted to illustrate is that if we go into the layout view, which is on an A3 sheet, what I've done is to take advantage of gCADPlus's ability to add new viewports. So the design proper is located within a floating viewport. I've left its colour set at 242, a pinkish colour, just so that you can see the boundary, and in a little while when we finish this we'll just set that at white so you won't actually see it. But it does enable me to demonstrate. This is a floating viewport, and if we come over here to the viewport itself, can you see there's the scale? So view scale is 100 and it's set as a fixed scale. So that's fixed 1 to 100 on an A3 sheet. If we double click in there, we will go back into model space, and there is a fixed magenta viewport into that area. I'll right click and say display it back on the layout. So there are a number of viewports here. You create viewports by coming down here and say add a viewport, and I'll just add it out here to the left. What a viewport like that enables me to do, here we're seeing the whole design, the series of species photos and the construction work and the legend. If we double click in there, I can size this however I want, and I could wrap it around the legend and then display that on the background there. So there's a second floating viewport, no particular scale. I haven't made it a set scale. It's a view scale of 394. What I've done over here is put it a much smaller floating viewport. So I'll take it now and right click and move and put it into position alongside the design. So you may just be able to see these various viewports overlap, but they do enable us to place things nice and easily. So if I double click, I have to be a bit careful. If I move up to the top and double click in here, we should get the magenta box now covering the images, and I'll right click and display it on the layout. So I did mention that what I want to do at the end is to select the 3 floating viewports and just make their colour white. They will not print then. and we can OK it and unselect all. So if I zoom extends, we're now looking at the A3 sheet. I'd better take this one out and erase it. Now in order to print this, we simply go File and Save as a PDF, because I can't use a conventional PDF writer because they don't print transparency, and we have set transparency in this. Let me cancel. If I go back to model space and pick one of these symbols, I think you can see transparency is set because we can see the underlying construction. So if I take that symbol and edit it and click in here, you see the transparency is 100. 255 is no transparency. So we can close it and go back to where we were. So we can't print this with a traditional PDF writer. We're always hoping one day we'll find one that does print transparency, but we can go Save as PDF. We'll put a window maximum, so we'll go here, and there we're going to print the whole sheet, including our logo and other information. And we'll go to our desktop and My Mac desktop, and we'll overwrite Test PDF, and we'll say yes. You notice the Mac hourglass symbol, and it takes quite a while to convert this image and produce the PDF file. But I hope I can show you in a moment that it does a pretty reasonable job, including printing that transparency. The print is now complete. So what I'm going to do is turn to my desktop, and there it is, Test PDF. I think the important thing to demonstrate is we want to open it with Acrobat Reader. Don't rely on the inbuilt one in gCADPlus and the Mac environment. And there we have it. So let's zoom in just a little. Do that with View and Zoom and Marquee Zoom. And let's just have a look at some of the images and some of the symbols and the text. So there we are. I'm quite happy with that as a PDF file to send to the client. So I hope that covers quite a lot of ground in the production of quite complex gCADPlus drawings.